When did you start into the war then?
Right after Pearl Harbor.
So you started in...
Well, we started in a little island that wasn't very big. Probably the smallest one we were on. And but it had a group of Army B-24s also on the same island.
Yeah.
And I was telling Will, I guess it was, somebody I was telling last week. We used to get all kinds of special deals.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of a deal our pilot had with the skipper or anything else, but
So he always worked whatever he could.
we would do odd stuff. And this night, he came to me. He says, "We're going to fly down to the Nanamea, I think it was, and that's where the fleet was getting ready to attack Tarawa."
Yeah.
And we were taking the latest pictures and all the latest information and everything down there. And the pilot says, "We're going to take off at 2 o'clock. All we're taking is the 2 radiomen, the navigator, the co-pilot, and myself, and a special radar technician that's going to check the radioman out on the newest radar we got." And he says, "You don't need any gunners, you don't need anybody but yourself." He just says, "Get the plane ready, we'll take off at 2 o'clock. And I went down and checked the airplane, and we had just lost an airplane a week or so before. It couldn't find the island and ran out of gas. And had to ditch it. So I went down the plane, and it only had 200 gallons of gas in each tank. So I came back and I told the OD that I needed gas. And the engineering officer for the squadron was there, and he says, "Oh, 200 gallons of gas, and you'll be down there in 20 minutes and 20 minutes back." I says, "I'm not going to take off in the war zone without gas."
Yeah.
He says, "I don't know whether there'll be an island down there or not when they get there." Well, anyway, they fiddled and diddled around, and I never seemed like they were never sending me gas. So at the same time, the OD that night was our navigator. And so he was on duty when this fella came by in a Jeep, and he says, "You got anybody from Illinois?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "We got, in our crew, we got Bob Strong from Urbana." He says, "Oh, I went to high school with Bob Strong." So he says, "I'll be back in a little bit." So pretty soon I still didn't get my gas, so he came back, and it was Bill Lynch that I ended up working for at the asphalt company.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, he was the engineering officer of the island. So I told Bill, I says, "I need gas." He says, "Just climb in the Jeep and let's go. I know where it is." So we went down, got a gas truck, and I put 300 more gallons in each tank. And anyway, we went 2 o'clock, went down the end of the runway and I'd already run the engines up and checked them all and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But went down there, pilot always checked them before we went out on the runway. So he blinked the tower, and we got the green light from the tower for takeoff, but he hadn't checked the engines and the mags yet. So he ran them up and checked them, and then when we were ready to pull out on the runway, he flashed them again. They didn't return our green light. So he says, "Oh, to heck with them," and he wheels out on the runway, and about halfway down the runway, all the lights went out. So we flew on down there, and we flashed the runway down there, and they gave us a green light to land, and just about ready to touch down on the runway, and the whole island opened up, firing up above us, and a flight of Japanese bombers had followed right in behind us. And they were bombing the runway and the ships in the harbor. And of course we took off and flew over the top of them. We couldn't go back because everything was dark. So we just stayed there and flew around over the top of them. And the radar, they'd all say, well, there's one coming across.
Oh, your radar operator on your plane.
On our plane, knew right where they were all the time, but I didn't have any gunners. Wasn't anything we could do about it. and we couldn't go back. We couldn't land down there because the landing, when they left.
Yeah, and the runway's all.
So we had to fly around there. We flew around that island until daylight. And then we went back home again. If I hadn't had that gas, I don't know what we'd have done. But yeah, that was our biggest problem, trying to find our come back at night and try to find
your landing.
Yeah, well, we could find it if they had lights on, but if they had everything off because of a emergency, or what do I want to call it?
Air raid or whatever you got.
And there were times when they had that, and of course then you had to fly around and hope you still knew where the island was. And after you fly around a little while and
yeah,
you don't know where anything is.